Hey, this is Notser, and today we're taking a look at the Tier 7 Premium British Battleship hood. We're on the map Neighbors, and this is the hood that was recently buffed in 8.0. I want to share with you the buffs to the hood, and my overall impression of the ship now that it has received these buffs. Obviously, we're a British battleship, and the hood was one of the first ones introduced. There's the Nelson, the Duke of York, the Vanguard, the Warspite. There are a lot of British battleships, and for the longest time the hood was just forgotten. But no longer. Coupling it with its great speed and survivability, it's always had that, is a recently buffed gun system. The Sigma is now 1.9, which is much better than what it was before. And yes, oh, well, it's only a 0.1 change. It is an important change. They also adjusted the way that the fuse works for the AP shell. It is not a shallow AP fuse anymore. It's a traditional battleship, so against battleships it should function more appropriately. Against some cruisers it might overpin a little bit harder though, so keep that in mind. Also, the hood was well known for its defensive AA skill, which was leveraging the unique rocket system that was equipped to the ship. That defensive AA would only activate at short-range aura. As it stands now, that is not the case for the hood. The defensive AA consumable that they gave the hood is a very boring traditional cruiser defensive AA. It doesn't have the enhanced uber DPS at short range. It has it across the entire aura, and it's less impactful, but it's more useful to both yourself and your team, honestly, because you can now provide sort of a token cruiser defensive AA scenario in a great big battleship. On top of that, there's a unique feature of the long-range AA aura on the ship. There's actually two sources of long-range AA, and because of that, whenever you equip the AA module that extends the number of flak bursts by 2, it actually extends the number of flak bursts on this ship at long range by 4. It's a very interesting feature, and honestly, I don't even know if it's worth it. After playing the game for a while and seeing how easily flak is avoided, it's more important to me as a player that continuous is enhanced, but I'm not going to invest too much in it. You could also just choose to swap in the improved accuracy module in slot 3 and be done with it. It doesn't really matter. So, we have gotten a couple good shots on the enemy. I think one of the cruisers tried to show himself a little bit too much, and we punished that with 2 citadels. But for the most part, the enemy is on the other flank. Now, I'm going to maintain a slight bit of angle. The hood is very good when you've got angling involved. There are a couple extra armored plates that can pretty much absorb consistent waterline shots at that angle, so you basically have to have players aware that the hood has that extra armor, and they need to go looking for other areas. But the enemy Colorado, perfectly broadside, where we can punish really well. 20,000 damage. Don't know that I would have reached the Citadel with the old fuse time. It's sort of a benefit against battleships and a disadvantage against lightly armored cruisers. But lightly armored cruisers are going to take damage from everyone, whereas battleships, some ships don't do anything against them. So I definitely feel like having a more traditional fuse time is more useful. And you know what? This enemy Fiji, Colorado's dead. Can we finish the Fiji off? Is he trying to retreat? We do finish the Fiji off, and yeah, that accuracy. A little bit improved Sigma goes a long way. And first heal, of course. Gonna move forward. The Atlanta is trying to set me on fire. Obviously, I had the immunity from the damage control because of the flood. But now I won't be, so I want to try and shorten the time that the Atlanta is alive. Obviously, the gun's fully reloaded. Aiming at the waterline, hoping for a nice, easy citadel, and of course, everything overpins. Super hard overpin. But we did good damage, and the enemy was unsuccessful in setting us on fire. So I'm just going to re-angle, have my guns facing, which have good turret traverse. You know, every other feature of the hood was already pretty good. The guns were where you really gave up against the enemy, but that's no longer the case. It actually feels like a pretty awesome Tier 7 premium. And I really like the unique flavor of the defensive AA. And oh, of course, I nick the island a little bit, And we only have like 3 or 4 shells that actually go towards the Atlanta, with 1 dispersing into him. But the Atlanta, he's dead. And I'm just trying to angle appropriately, and we take a huge shot from the Prince Idol Friedrich. That's unfortunate for me. Well, can we return the favor? So he did about 20,000, maybe 15,000 damage. Aim at the top of the hull. I don't expect to ever get a Citadel, and we get 11,000 damage. Not bad. Plus or minus dispersion. I'll take that. Now, I don't want to take as much damage as I did before. Perfect dodge. Awesome. Very nice. Only 1 fire, so it is the British heal steel, so I'm still going to benefit from that, and obviously I really like healing for more than you would normally. I think that's a really great feature, but this is a vulnerable angle for myself. I'm way too soft, way too open for a punishment. I was hoping that maybe the enemy would fire at someone else or myself, and I would have enough time to re-angle before it was a vulnerable area. As it stands, it looks like he's just preoccupied with surviving. And fully respect that. Want nothing else. Is he going to burn down? Don't really know. It actually looks like, yeah, he is able to put the fire out. But that doesn't matter because we're able to finish him off. I did pull the trigger when he was still, bleeding out. But if he was to get away, and maybe he could... I've had games where enemies have done similar. It is really sickening. I really don't like myself when I choose to hold my fire and the enemy is able to escape. So I did pull the trigger and it ended up working out because he did indeed use his defensive aim. Enemy Scharnhorst moving towards the center of the map. And that's all cool, fine and dandy. I should totally be pulling the trigger though. I'm looking for a better aim, a better shot. Not really going to get a better shot. Let's be real, Notser. We get a little bit of fortunate dispersion. Unfortunately, it looks like it dispersed into guns because 3 penetrations for that little amount of damage. We did health point damage to, I think, one of his primary turrets. So kind of missed out on that. But it does look like this should end up being the end of the game if the friendly is able to survive. Enemy Iron Duke. Definitely want to address the Iron Duke if possible, of course. And he is very British right now. And we get 2 more penetrations for 0 damage. I love it when I fire on the enemy and multiple penetrations do 0 damage on multiple targets. It feels great. For anyone who's not aware, I did damage to the main battery of the enemy, the turret armor. And because of that, it has its own hit points that has to absorb all that. And if I were to, consistently hit that location, I would eventually blow up that gun. But I don't really care about blowing up that gun right now, right? I just want to do damage in the hood. And I definitely feel like the hood is much better. It absolutely can contend with other tier 7 premiums. I love that it has unique camo. Obviously, it's a unique ship itself. It's well known. So I'm really happy that Wargaming was able to buff this back up, or buff it up for the first time, to a state that makes it competitive. And if for no other reason, it's a unique experience. It's a tier 7 battleship with a cruiser defensive fire. That's pretty cool. So I'm really pleased with it. It is definitely one of those ships that you need to stay on the lookout for. There are other ships, though, that I would love to test and share with you. Obviously, the Izimo, probably one of the biggest buffs in recent memory, both to the penetration and also to the Sigma. That ship is a monster now. I will absolutely be trying to get some footage on that. I have a game in The Sims if you would like to see the updated torpedo systems. I will, however, admit torpedoes are less emphasized in the current state of the game. So that video, I didn't get many torpedo strikes on the enemy. Every single time I was setting up a torpedo strike, someone else was finishing them off. And then, of course, you got the Nagato, the Colorado, a bunch of ships recently received buffs. But what if I were to ask you, what premium ship is similar to the Hood, where 1 or 2 buffs would really make a difference to you being interested in playing it or purchasing it. Now, I have some ideas, and probably the most glaring one to me is Le Terrible. It is horrible. It's an awful experience, and it's made awful by one simple omission. It doesn't have a defensive consumable. It needs something like smoke or a heal so it can be a little bit more aggressive in the open. Every hit point that is done to it will stick. It can't avoid it by smoking out, and it can't reclaim some of that health with a heal. And, you know, for me, it's just full no-go from day one. It needed that extra little bit of oomph for it to really have the value that made it shine, and it just never received it. But there are definitely more premiums than that, and I would love to hear the comments from all of you. What premium ship in the game right now is on the cusp of being relevant if it were to receive 1 or 2 buffs? And I want the buffs to be obviously within reason. We don't want to just make, you know, a battleship have a 10-second reload or a 5-second reload like a DD. But within reason, you know, a little slight increase in hit points, maybe the addition of a specific type of consumable, something like that. In the comments, what do you think Wargaming could do to revitalize one of those premiums? And I would love to hear that. Friendly is able to get Kraken Unleashed, and there's only 1 enemy DD left, and it looks like we should be able to contribute. The DD is definitely over on this area, and I'm going to try and use the speed that the hood has to sail into him and hopefully shoot him. And Friendly was able to spot out the Moot Sucky. Mootski definitely doesn't suck at the AA game now, but at the regular DD roll, oh, yes it does. Oh, yes it does. So we're just going to plant some shells in. Yeah, the enemy Japanese DDs are so shallow in the water, it's really difficult. Yeah, it's really difficult to hit them consistently. But we got 3 kills, we had a base capture even, and the hood definitely excelled in this game. And I'm so pleased because I think the hood deserves to be played more in the game. 3 kills, 1,861 base XP. My entire team carried. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.